News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. There's your closing bell for this Monday on Wall Street, where big moves from stocks and bonds are the story of the markets at the start of this very busy week. And we bring you the closing numbers each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 gained 35 points. NASDAQ gained 100. The Dow gained 313 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.21%. The 2-year yield at 3.59%. Spot gold is 1.25% higher, while silver is now more than 5% higher. Democrats are threatening to shut down the federal government unless Republicans strip funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer is vowing to block a massive spending package. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
At this point, the White House supports the bipartisan work that was done to advance the bipartisan appropriations package, and we want to see that passed. Policy discussions on immigration in Minnesota are happening. Look, the president is leading those discussions, as evidenced by his correspondence with Governor Walz this morning, but that should not be at the expense of government funding for the American people.
A shutdown would have little practical effect on ICE and the Border Patrol, which has already received massive funding in President Trump's tax bill last year. Body cameras captured the second killing of an American citizen protesting the takeover of Minneapolis by immigration agents. Robert McWhorter, a constitutional and criminal defense lawyer, says bystander videos have already made clear what happened.
If you're Kristi Noem, if I was her lawyer, I'd say, look, you can't lie your way out of this one. And I've thought a long time, what is a better thing for protecting rights? Is it our Constitution and Bill of Rights, or is it our cell phones?
Attorney Robert McWhorter on Bloomberg's Balance of Power. A federal judge has heard the arguments over whether she should, at least temporarily, halt the immigration crackdown in Minnesota. The state of Minnesota and the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul sued the Department of Homeland Security earlier this month. They want the judge to order federal law enforcement agencies to reduce the numbers of officers and agents in Minnesota while allowing them to continue to enforce immigration laws within limits. It is not clear when the judge might rule. And President Trump is sending U.S. border czar Tom Homan to Minneapolis amid a growing outcry over his immigration crackdown. Trump suggested on social media that Homan would help de-escalate tensions in the city, where protesters and immigration agents have been clashing for weeks. Laura Davison is Bloomberg News Deputy Bureau Chief in Washington.
Tom Homan reports directly to the president. The White House clearly wants to get a much firmer grip on what's happening there.
Bloomberg's Laura Davison tells Bloomberg Surveillance moving Homan into Minneapolis puts DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's future into question. Republican Chris Mattel says he is ending his campaign for governor of Minnesota.
I cannot support the National Republican's stated retribution on the citizens of our state, nor can I count myself a member of a party that would do so. I support the originally stated goals of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement's Operation Metro Surge. But Operation Metro Surge has expanded far beyond its stated focus on true public safety threats.
Mattel is an attorney who is considered a top candidate for the Republican ticket. Shares of CoreWeave gained about 6% in the regular session. Nvidia investing another $2 billion in the cloud infrastructure company's stock to speed its efforts to add more than 5 gigawatts of AI compute by 2030. Bloomberg tech anchor Ed Ludlow.
What, to its credit, CoreWeave has said is consistently the users, the customers of CoreWeave want Nvidia. So even if there are other products out there in the marketplace anyway, it's Nvidia that they keep asking for. And it's not just the latest generation of Nvidia accelerators.
Bloomberg's Ed Ludlow reports Nvidia has already agreed to buy more than $6 billion in services from CoreWeave through 2032. Power grids across the country are being tested by a post-winter storm freeze that's driven up demand and raised the risk of blackouts. Now, that storm knocked out power to hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses and could take days to be restored, especially in those hardest hit areas where cold temperatures will stick around for days, well below historical averages. Bloomberg meteorologist Rob Carolyn.
Numerous states now under either cold weather advisories or extreme cold weather warnings. That's going to be the big story this week as the storm has, for the most part, ceased to produce any very heavy precipitation.
Bloomberg meteorologist meteorologist Rob Carolyn. Natural gas in the U.S. surged by more than 20%. An estimated 12% of U.S. natural gas production was knocked offline by that winter storm, and natural gas prices have hit the highest since December of 2022. Natural gas prices now about 24% higher. Israel says it recovered the remains of the last hostage in Gaza. That's a step toward further implementing President Trump's post-war plan. The next step is likely to be the reopening of Gaza's border with Egypt, enabling Palestinians to move in both directions and allowing more aid to enter the country. The ceasefire's second phase also calls for deploying an international security force, disarming Hamas, pulling back Israeli soldiers, and rebuilding Gaza. Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, is apologizing for his past anti-Semitic comments, attributing his previous behavior to bipolar disorder. In a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal, Ye wrote that he is committed to accountability and meaningful change. He's embraced Hitler, the use of swastikas, and has a history of anti-Semitic rants, which ended his partnerships with Gap, Adidas, and Balenciaga. Ye's apology comes ahead of the debut of his album Bully. It's set for release January 30th. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.